Hey guys, welcome back to another While We're on the Subject special Pepperdine edition. As you can see, Aaron is not here, so this is going to be a great show. You're stuck with me, and another key difference, as I will mention in each one of these videos, the joke will never get old. The other difference is look back here. This is absolutely stunning. In fact, I didn't think we'd even interview a guest today. We're just both going to stare at this beautiful vista, and you can watch us, okay? Actually, no, that's not going to happen. Okay. But I do have a very special guest with me, Kristina Arriaga.
That's right, you got it
I was
perfect.
practicing that the whole time, and I got it. I wasn't going to say Kristina Aguilera. She will not be on the show. But actually, I think Kristina's work is actually much more interesting. So, Kristina, give us a little quick background. What are you up to right now, and how did you get to the America Project here at Pepperdine?
Oh, I'm in this beautiful, beautiful place, Pepperdine, God's country. And I have been invited to join this terrific new project called the American Project. And what the project is about what makes this country exceptional and unique and terrific. And it has to do with our freedom. My area of expertise for the last 30-some years has been religious liberty, so I was invited to come and speak about some of the issues we face nowadays and some of the conflicts we may face and how we can resolve these issues a la Americana.
Okay. So religious liberty, obviously this is not a hot button issue at all. No one really talks about this, right? But what are some misconceptions about religious liberty, if any, that you feel that are kind of pervasive among today's voter and the electorate?
Well, religious freedom is the ability to live according to your deeply held convictions. And it is the ability to follow a path and search the truth. And whether that path takes you to organized religion or no religion at all is your path and your path alone. Regrettably, we have had some politicizing of religious freedom. We have had some use of religious freedom as a tool. But the fact is that religious liberty is not a political tool. Religious liberty is not an evangelistic tool. Religious liberty is a core principle that allows us to live according to our deeply held convictions. Religious liberty is not about God. It's about who we are as human beings. It springs from our dignity, and it's something that should be protected by our government.
So what are some areas right now where you've seen, in your opinion, perhaps just egregious infringements on Americans' right to practice liberty, if any at all? Are there some examples that come to mind where you think that we have some ways to go when it comes to religious liberty?
Well, they're having several religious freedom cases that have gone all the way before the Supreme Court. Most notable are the cases associated with the Little Sisters of the Poor, a small order of Catholic nuns that serve the dying elderly poor. Regrettably, under the Obama administration, they were threatened with millions of dollars in fines unless they abided by this mandate in the Affordable Care Act, of which, by the way, the government exempted itself from having to abide by this mandate. It exempted TRICARE and Pepsi and Exxon and Visa. However, the government refused to allow the Little Sisters of the Poor to ask for a religious exemption from having to provide their employees with abortion-causing drugs. That controversy was created by the government, by the Obama administration, and unfortunately tears at the fabric of American society because issues got conflated. This issue was about the ability of these nuns to continue to serve the poor. And the government made it all about access to healthcare services, which was an entirely false way of characterizing this conflict. On a lower level, many times the affront to religious freedom it comes from bureaucrats. There was a case in Texas where a Native American pastor was the subject of an undercover investigation by the Department of Interior called Operation Powwow. When the Department of Interior...
It was called Operation Powwow?
It was called Operation Powwow. I mean, truth is stranger than fiction. And it was an undercover operation. Did you know the Department of Interior had undercover agents? I did not until I heard about this case. So they sent people disguised as Native Americans to powwows to find out if any of the Native Americans were using eagle feathers. Why? Is it because the eagle is extinct? Absolutely not. It had to do with the fact that the federal government has a feather repository where anyone who's not part of a federally recognized tribe has to get those feathers. So they confiscated the feathers of Pastor Robert Soto, threatened him with prison and fines, and his case was in court over 7 years. And that, to me, as a proud American who comes from immigrant parents and who loves freedom is the infringement of the ability for people to do what their conscience calls them to do. The federal government has absolutely no role in monitoring and regulating the kind of activities that we engage in unless it is something absolutely serious. And that's how our Constitution is written, right? Our Constitution protects our ability to live according to our deeply held religious convictions. Not only to believe them, not only to worship at church or a synagogue or in a mosque during the weekend, but to live according to those convictions.
You're right, truth is stranger than fiction, although I am particularly interested to see who in the Obama administration approved in a plan to actually go after a group called Little Sisters of the Poor. That seems, if you're going to go after a group, that's not the group you want to go after from a name standpoint. All right, so 2 more questions for you. This is a common thing that I hear discussed among the conservative movement, but where does religious liberty begin and where does it end? Because people always say we are either a Christian nation or we are a religious nation, or same with free speech. The courts have agreed there are limits to free speech, right? You cannot say bomb on an airplane, right? But as far as where does the expression of religion go to, and then where are the limits when it comes to religious liberty here? How do you protect, or what are some of the ways you talk about the limits where people can say, well, they can't justify any action in the name of religion?
The real question here is a balancing question, and that is beautifully addressed by the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, a law that was passed over 20 years ago, almost unanimously by Congress, and supported by a broad coalition of religious groups from Anglican to Zoroastrian. And what that law says is that the government has something called compelling interest, and the government can say it's in the interest of the government, for instance, not to have religions that promote abuse against women, or to have anyone promote, for instance, and this happened recently in Michigan, female genital mutilation, use religious liberty as an excuse to perform these horrible acts or violence against children. But the Congress, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, says that even if the government finds that it has a compelling interest to protect people or from certain violations, it has to apply the most minimum standards. In other words, should the government say that they have to limit someone's religious freedom, it has to do it in a way that is minimal to that person. And the reason the Religious Freedom Restoration Act was born was because of a Supreme Court decision that had forbidden Native Americans from using peyote. Now, a lot of Americans don't know that it's embedded in our laws that Native Americans can use peyote. And the reason is peyote is proven to be part of the religious ceremony for Native Americans. So the intent of these laws was so that America doesn't fall into the trap of only allowing popular religions to function publicly in the square. And what that means, for instance, is that if a Baptist group wants to open and start a church in San Francisco, they should be able to. It also means that if a Muslim group, like just happened in Jersey, wants to open a mosque in New Jersey, they should be able to do so as well. There was a famous case in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, of a mosque that just wanted to expand its facilities. And people from all backgrounds came to defend that mosque because they understand that what protects the mosque on a given day also protects the synagogue on Friday and protects the church on Sunday. Religious liberty is not only for popular religions. Religious liberty is not only for liberals. Religious liberty is not only for conservatives. It is a bedrock standard of civil rights in this country.
Okay. Well said. So, taking from the America Project, what do you hope to get out of the America Project and to communicate to and actually contribute to the conversation about the next generation of conservatism? What would you like to see implemented that would really help?
Well, we have to develop a way to talk to each other face to face about these issues, even when we disagree. Americans have become very timid about bringing up subject matters that may be controversial face to face with people that they know may disagree with them. And I think we agree on a lot. even with people with whom we disagree on certain religious liberty cases. And I think we have to find those points of understanding, those points of agreement, and then for both sides to agree about the importance of the ability to live precisely according to what's inside of you. I mean, the government should never, ever touch what's in your head or in your heart. I mean, we as Americans understand that. And we all agree on that. So liberals, conservatives, Democrats, Republicans, libertarians, we should all be unified on the idea, as we were when the Religious Freedom Restoration Act was passed, that it is important to protect religious freedom for everyone, regardless of how popular their thinking is in current culture.
Amen and amen. No pun intended, obviously. But Kristina, thank you for being on the show. I know it was brutal. Do you want to just look at the background one last time before you go?
Yeah, I know.
I want to thank
Beautiful.
a sponsor for all the trucks that drove by. I don't know what brands were included, but we thank you for going through the show on this one. So thanks again, folks, and tune in next time for another While We're on the Subject. Later.